So, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, since it's Valentine's Day, I wanted to talk a little bit about a documentary that I was watching on Netflix over the weekend. This documentary called the Tinder Swindler. And, it deals with romance frauds and stuff like that, romance scams, which is something that's really topical. And we talk about it a lot. And people are very embarrassed when they fall victim to it. And I don't think that the people involved in this documentary were any different. I think it's interesting because it's called the Tinder Swindler, but the only time Tinder ever actually played a role in it was when he made the initial contact. Or they made the initial contact with him, and they had the whole swipe left, swipe right thing. And beyond that, what I think sets that particular instance of a scam apart is the fact that there was actually physical contact the whole way through. The whole relationship, everything was developed through real world engagement and interaction, going out to dinner, spending time together, traveling the private jets, spending the time to impress the person and stuff like that. And normally you'd find the scammer would do a huge amount of investment into the relationship side of things online, and the real person might not exist. In fact, you might never even meet them. But in this particular case, they actually got to know the person quite intimately. But therein, and I think what sets that aside is the fact that he was able to use that as an opportunity to expedite the relationship. So whereas a normal romance scammer might invest 3 to 6 months or even longer to build that relationship to then be able to go and ask for the funds and things like that, in this particular case, after about a month, he was able to start pressuring these women into providing large sums of money, which, as they say in the documentary, then became a Ponzi scheme. So he was living the lifestyle to it's interesting because the lifestyle was used to impress the next victim. So it really was a sort of Ponzi scheme in that sense, that he was scamming one woman to get the money to then scam the next woman. And it's quite interesting that in that sense, because it was almost like sharing the proceeds of the scam, whereas normally they'd take the money and use it for themselves and their own self-worth. It sort of reflects a degree of the narcissistic side behind it, that he wanted to create this perception that he was this wealthy person, and the only way that he could live that lifestyle or pass himself off as that was actually through scamming those people. And it wasn't scamming for the sake of building the relationship or a lifestyle for himself. Certainly that happened. But it was actually scamming for the purpose of keeping the scam going with the next person, which was really interesting. And by contrast, there was another not really a documentary, a docudrama, I guess, that I started watching, which is a little confusing. I haven't actually quite gotten all the way through it yet, called Inventing Anna, about a New York socialite, Anna Sorokin. That really highlighted the narcissistic side of some of these scammers, a sense of entitlement, almost to the point that, oh, well, if you're stupid enough or foolish enough to fall for the scam, then you deserve it. Which really plays to the whole opportunity rationalization side of it. So I'm not doing anything wrong by scamming you, you're being stupid by falling for it, or you're not doing your due diligence. But she actually went to some quite extreme lengths to make the due diligence appear legitimate, that actually, when they did do their due diligence, their checks, it all sort of failed. And it's interesting how close the whole thing came to falling over like a deck of cards each time that the money didn't arrive. And all she said each time was, oh, my father will be so disappointed. But because she had this perception of being so wealthy already, nobody wanted to run the risk that her father would get angry. And so they all seemed to jump in and bail her out, and, oh, we'll try and help out and stuff like that, which I don't know what that says about the mindset of the people in the group that she was trying to scam, because she was deliberately targeting the wealthy. And I don't know if they saw it as being, if that says that there's such an elitist mindset that must be perpetuated, or that they themselves as a group of people are so, such social climbers. I haven't seen the whole thing. I do need to come back, and I do need to finish watching. I'm about halfway through, and I'll probably do something, make a video with a little bit more my thoughts about that at the end. But at the moment, it's just fascinating. And what makes it a little hard to judge in terms of the docudrama is that every episode starts with this saying that everything in this is completely true except for all the things that are completely made up. So I'm not sure how much is genuinely true and how much is actually made up. I'll probably need to read a bit more around behind it. But for the time being, it's a fascinating insight into the psychology of some of these scammers. And I think it starts, for me, looking at that Tinder Swindler one, but then the Anna Sorokin one equally, how she manipulated the relationships and saw herself as the victim when she was eventually sent to prison as well, and tried to persist with that narcissistic victim mentality, even in context of telling her story to the journalists, which is just quite bizarre and fascinating at the same time. So anyway, keeping in mind, romance scams, again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. The interesting thing about the Tinder Swindler was that the scam itself was perpetuated face-to-face, whereas most romance scams, you never actually meet the person. It's all done over the internet. In that case, the internet was actually a very small part of it, which I think is quite different from the majority of romance scams that you encounter. And watch this space, because I'll wait until I've finished watching the Inventing Anna Sorokin docudrama before posting an update, and it might change my views on where I think it is at the moment anyway. But keep watching anyway, and we'll talk next time.